Breaking right now, woke ITV has launched an astonishing and bizarre witch hunt against one of its own biggest stars, Gino D'Acampo, for so-called unacceptable behaviour that took place while he was filming all of ITV's biggest shows over the past 14 years. Now, I find this whole thing completely extraordinary for a whole number of reasons. Firstly, woke ITV provided acres of coverage to this special report last night, acres, about half of their news bulletin, far more than woke ITV has ever dedicated in a single bulletin to the Pakistani rape gang scandals. So let that sink in. The second point is, and look, I'm going to be honest with you, some of this behaviour seems a little bit unsavoury, but this guy is being made out as if he is now the new Jimmy Savile or the new Harvey Weinstein, when in fact what he did was tell inappropriate jokes. And those inappropriate jokes, by the way, which were quite sexualised, were the types of jokes that he told on air on woke ITV for years. In fact, look, they encouraged his behaviour. There he was, completely naked, for example, on This Morning, where the innuendo was constant. As Peter Lloyd, who is a campaigner for men, posted on X, this is laughable. They sexually exploited him in a way that would never happen to a woman. I hope he sues them. And honestly, when you see how ITV has turned, I'm sure you will agree with me, even if you don't like the jokes that Gino told, this is a completely over-the-top reaction. Remember, by the way, Gino D'Acampo was presented on ITV up until a few months ago, but this is how the special report was announced by Charlene White last night, as if it was the biggest, most important story in the world.
An exclusive ITV investigation into allegations of sexual inappropriate and intimidating behaviour by celebrity chef Gino D'Acampo. Dozens of alleged victims have come forward to tell ITV News about their experiences of working with the chef over a period of 12 years. They described behaviour which they claim was unacceptable, distressing and horrendous. D'Acampo told ITV News he firmly denied the allegations, adding that they were deeply upsetting, and warning that this special report from our correspondent Sejal Karia contains details and language which you may find upsetting.
So that was how it was introduced. And then we got a succession of stories. And look, I will repeat for anyone who thinks that I am defending the specific jokes that Gino D'Acampo told. I'm not. But remember, this was over the course of nearly 2 decades, at a time when Gino D'Acampo was known on ITV as this sexually provocative guy. It was a big part of his persona.
Lena, not her real name, worked on several of Gino D'Acampo's shows, including Gordon, Gino and Fred's Road Trip in 2018.
Without saying hello, good morning, he just announced loudly that he felt like that morning. I really feel like a this morning. And off he went. How can you think that that sort of teenage boy behaviour is appropriate in a 40-something man while he works in a position of highest power?
Okay, well, a few things to pick up on there. Yes, it is teenage boy behaviour. Yes, it is immature. But it was behaviour that ITV actively encouraged from Gino D'Acampo on shows before The Watershed, like This Morning, and then after The Watershed on programmes like Celebrity Juice. This was his persona. So is it any surprise that he took that persona into his filming? What is most bizarre is that ITV is now, even though this was their star, their guy, is now washing their hands of him altogether and reporting on it as if they are just an observing party.
Gino D'Acampo's been the host of one of ITV's longest-running game shows, Family Fortunes. But tonight, ITV News understands the series filmed in 2023 is not currently scheduled for broadcast, and ITV has no plans to work with Gino D'Acampo.
Wonder how they found that out. Just running down the hallway. Connor Tomlinson, let me bring you back in on this host of Tomlinson Talks on Lotus Eaters and the Deprogram podcast with the New Culture Forum. Now, Connor, I know you are a very upstanding, respectable gentleman, and I'm sure that you don't find Gino's saucy humour very funny, right? And that's fine. But do you understand that this is very odd for ITV to now turn on Gino D'Acampo, having been completely complicit in creating this highly sexualized persona for the past 10 years at least?
Yeah, breaking news, Italian man obsessed with sex. More breaking news, Japanese, too polite. I'm not particularly shocked about any of this. And as you say, ITV were encouraging it. It's just like, it's very similar to the Greg Wallace story, right? I wouldn't act this way in the workplace. I don't think anyone I've ever worked with is going to come out of the woodwork and say that I have. I find it all a bit cringe, to be honest. But we can't pretend that a man who went through the 90s with lads mag culture or had sort of 30 years of sitcoms and carry-ons preceding him that encouraged this exact kind of humor, the innuendo, the sexualized comments, the interplay between men and women, and then worked for a station which made it his brand identity. So he did naked chef bits and then went on Celebrity Juice calling Holly Willoughby Holly Willabooby with Keith Lemon. You can't pretend that this wasn't encouraged, capitalized on. It was the norm. And so, yeah, I wouldn't behave that way in this workplace. But I also think this is, as well, a kind of storm in a teacup, right? It's a direct consequence of putting very sensitive to power dynamics, feminist-minded women in the same office as 90s lads mag culture. And you're always going to get these kinds of culture clashes when you've got that ideology going at it. It's what my friend Nina Power calls a puritanical society. There's a prurient, very obsessive interest in sex. It's in every advert, every music video, every joke on TV after the watershed. But then you also got a very puritanical attitude to specifically the way that men interact with women, whereas, you know, women can be as sexually forward as they like and be celebrated on social media for being empowered, for sleeping with 100 men on camera. But if a man makes a slightly tasteless, sexist joke, like Greg Wallace or Gino D'Acampo may have done, then we all go up in arms and we do another Me Too movement. I'm just sort of really sick and tired of it. These people are so absolutely self-obsessed. There are, as you said, way more important stories like the grooming gangs to be covering. And the idea that ITV needs to dedicate headline news to this when they knew it was going on for years and made money off of it, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, the thing is that no one in a situation like this, Connor, thinks for a single second either about the impact that this now has on Gino D'Acampo. And at the end of the day, no one is accusing of him doing a single illegal thing. All of these issues should have been dealt with at the time if complaints were made. The people who are making the accusations are all hiding behind anonymity. So we don't know if these people are driven by any type of malice. And trust me, it happens in situations like this. But the bigger point for me is that ITV are just almost acting as if they have no duty of care now over this guy. And you should see the reports today on all of the mainstream media. There is just like a complete slavish desire now to cancel him and to say that Gino D'Acampo's over and no one should ever work with him again. And look, I know what this is like. I know what happened when there was hysteria over my situation on GB News with Lawrence Fox. And when everyone backs away from you, when everyone drops you, when you're cancelled like this, it has such a significant impact. And I just find ITV's behaviour totally terrible, because it's like now they have no responsibility for Gino D'Acampo. They don't give a damn about him. He can rot in hell as far as they're concerned. Yet he was their star for all of these years, and they clearly knew what his shtick was. And then I think the other thing that I have a big problem with, Connor, is this idea of offence archaeology, because times do change. And again, people will try and say, oh, Dan, you're just trying to excuse terrible behaviour. I'm not. But look, I worked in newsrooms, Connor, from, you know, the noughties, and things were wild, because woke had not entered into the workplace. And there was just an acceptance that jokes and sort of dark humor and all of that type of thing were part of a workplace culture. And what I think is so terrible here is that Gino D'Acampo has been judged by extreme woke values 12 years on. But first, something really important to talk to you about. Scammers and spammers who are out there to ruin your life. We've all experienced more and more of those spam emails, text messages, and robo phone calls. Not only are they annoying and really time-consuming to deal with, but they usually represent a gross invasion of your private information that can cause vast reputational and financial damage. And I mean, how the heck did they get your information in the first place? Well, it's likely as a result of data brokers who know everything about you, your health information, relationship status, mortgage details, so much more actually, and then sell it for a profit. These data brokers can directly or indirectly expose sensitive information to bad actors, putting you at risk of identity theft. The number of data breaches worldwide rises every year. According to the annual data breach report by the Identity Theft Resource Center, it actually went up by 72% in 2023. This means that you and your loved ones are at a constantly increasing risk of data breaches as growing lists of data brokers hold your personal information. That has then been sold or published online without you even knowing about it. Let me tell you how shocking the consequences can be. Health insurance companies could actually raise your rates based on your online activity. Huge loans have been taken under people's names without them even knowing about it. And scammers have even started to use AI to, wait for it, mimic the voices of friends and family to trick victims into sending them money. These imposter scams rely entirely on the voice data they can find online. While you can ask these data brokers to delete your personal information, the process takes hundreds of hours to do manually and requires repetition. But the good news is that today I have a solution for you that I use and personally endorse. Go to incogni.com/outspoken and get 60% off an annual plan. Now, Incogni reaches out to data brokers on your behalf, requests your personal data removal, and handles any objections from their side. The whole process is automated, ensuring that your data stays off the market by conducting repeated removals and taking your data down if it pops up again. That's what makes the yearly subscription especially advantageous. Now, I do the annual plan so that I'm constantly being taken off these lists. It truly is a simple process. Create an account, grant Incogni the right to work for you, and they will contact the data brokers on your behalf to request your personal data removal. It has helped me so much. You can go to incogni.com/outspoken and get 60% off. That's 60% off an annual plan right now. It could be the most important decision you make. But now, back to the show.
Yeah, I would point out as well that as far as I'm aware, he's not only been accused of nothing illegal, but nothing at all physical. It's all sort of rude comments that, again, ITV were happy to make his brand identity for years. It's the same sort of cheeky, chappy stuff that Greg Wallace was accused of. I just want to point out that throughout all of this is all hearsay, particularly anonymized hearsay. And so there is the possibility, not only, Dan, that this is offence archaeology, as was the case with your instance with Lawrence Fox on GB News, but also, and I don't wish to discredit anyone that would like to come forward with anything actually substantial if something bad really has happened, but this could also just be made up. Like the same with your false allegations that were also hanging over your head while working at GB News from an ex-partner. It is possible that people are either exaggerating these claims or dogpiling on. I don't want a culture where people can, the worst kinds of people, can be believed as soon as they say something very bad about a person, very damaging, without being held to any standard of evidence, and that person's treated as guilty to be proven innocent. So, look, I don't know Gino D'Acampo from Adam. I probably wouldn't have behaved that way personally. It's not in my temperament. But then the idea that this is also the most important story and the most abhorrent way he could have behaved. When he was sharing the program with Philip Schofield, I might add, I can't be made to be outraged, I'm afraid.
No, I couldn't agree more. And all I would say is that, trust me, false allegations are made. Trust me, when you work in the TV industry, there's a lot of reasons why people are actuated by malice, why they do want to see you fall. And I completely agree that we now live in a culture where we allow woke media organizations to operate as judge, jury, and executioner. And I'm sorry, I don't trust ITV's motives here. Why are they doing this now, Connor? Why are they turning on one of their own stars now? What is that about? There's going to be a lot behind the scenes that people don't know. And just remember, and I think people will very clearly see that we have provided both sides of this, but just remember, Gino D'Acampo has denied all of these allegations. He's not said, oh, there's some truth to this, or I acted badly in the past. He has issued categorical denials of these claims, and yet ITV went ahead. And I just think shame on them in this case. But Connor Tomlinson, so brilliant to have you, host of Deprogrammed on the New Culture Forum and Tomlinson Talks on Lotus Eaters. Have a wonderful weekend, Connor.
You too, Dan.
Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews, and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are.